I now work at FNATIC. FNATIC's leading team in esports. Obviously, pro gaming is itself a marriage of a couple of interesting things. You're seeing a marriage of technology, because obviously it's digital first, it's online, and also then a marriage of sport, which has been historically quite conservative. So there's nice parallels there, I think, around this tech transition that we're trying to make. Tell me how to stop my kids playing Fortnite or whatever it is. And my answer to that is always, have you ever tried playing it yourself? ACGC, and Patrick wanted to introduce me to them, and he said, well, Andy used to play a game called Doom and Quake, which I did when back in the mid-90s. Well, if you play games and you were any good at them, then you'd own an esports team, right? It's like one of those like dads in the pub or something who could have made it. And it came to me like a sort of a bolt from the blue, really. There were two pathways. One pathway was my lawyers, about whom I cared very much, working harder and harder and harder to an increasingly dissatisfied customer, right? And so therefore you had a mental well-being issue in the future that you needed to, was going to need to be addressed in some way. The other way was to get control of technology and try to use it. I think one of the things that we're doing in FNATIC is trying to basically answer that question as a back office. How do we create, again, solutions that work for very fast scaling product teams? Like people who want to try things and then iterate and iterate and iterate, which is the tech mindset, as you'll know. I've moved away from risk has to be the first priority, because I recognize that is not tenable within tech products. Like if you're always just going, yes, but we need to think about this, yes, but we need to think about this, you end up being Chicken Little. Don't think about it and think about it and think about it. Think about it, launch it, and then use customer experience to iterate it, right? So a lot of the tech that we've put in place, or say legal tech stuff that we've put in place, has been, let's just try this with this team, let's try that with that team, let's get their feedback in real time, and then bring that into the product experience and try and iterate it. And I think now what we've got is quite a nice, tight, almost like internal legal tech product thinking process that isn't procurement driven, it's user need driven. And I think that's also a good transition for a lot of companies to make, for legal teams to go, we don't need somebody else to make the decision as to what we need to be. Again, that idea of that powered workloader to make us better at doing our jobs. We can make the decisions on that with our customers, and I think we've been able to do that. Two on that. Number one, this is real again, a sort of a tech product mindset thing. Ask forgiveness, not permission, right? Like again, I think a lot of legal people are naturally rule adherent. That's okay, but you're not going to get anywhere by sticking within your guidelines of just going, okay, I'll use the developer panel in Word and see if that's the best that I can do. Or this might be a little bit unfair, but there's definitely people that I've met in the market who have thrown excuses out like, oh, our policies won't allow it and all that sort of thing. Is it really that, or is it actually that you don't want to make that shift because you're going to go into a world where you are you're going to have to expose your own lack of learning? I mean, we find this all the time, just as a bit of a sidebar in FNATIC, the kind of numbers that people are now spending on shirt sponsorships in esports are starting to really increase. So the last two shirt sponsorships we did were with Crypto.com and with ASOS, the online retailer. Big numbers now. We're starting to get into football club, like lower half of the Premier League type size numbers. The kind of people who are writing those kind of checks are CMOs, right? Or even CEOs. Those people may be a little bit too old to have really caught the full wave of esports. They may not even necessarily be gamers. What's been amazing to me is how open-minded and humble those people are about the possibilities of gaming, even when they don't fully see it, right? They trust people in their team to see it. Now you have to go, okay, well, with legal tech, I have to go in and go, I don't know anything about this. And in fact, actually, I don't even really understand how it all clicks together. Yeah. I need either somebody in my team to do that and educate me, or I need to go over to somebody in the tech department and go, I have no idea like how any of this stuff works, but we need the assistance, please help, right? That barrier alone, I think, is blocking a lot of legal tech transitions. Until you start connecting into other parts of your sort of system, right? So for example, an API call, right? Or something like that, where you need this piece of software to speak to this piece of software. Actually, you probably don't need, like, you're not going to create tech debt. You're not going to create any problems that can't be shut down. There will be definitely a way to say, I'd like to experiment with this piece of kit. I'm going to use my work email address and we're going to pull it into our sort of environment here. But don't worry, like ultimately it's a trial, or it's we can shut this down using this. We're just going to try it. And if you satisfy yourself that you can give it a try and then shut it down if it doesn't work, well, then what's really the risk to your business? Like, and the second thing is, we got centralized approval for using tools by proving the efficacy of tools, right? Like, if you go to a customer and the customer goes, I've got this need, you're not fulfilling it now. You go, right, I can use this tool to help you fulfill it. Are you now happy with that tool? I don't need to advocate for the budget. The customer advocates for the budget. For example, we use another tool, which is a no-code bot. That tool, we've now built multiple applications for other teams using, in inverted commas, legal's bot, right? So those teams are now saying, this is a tool that we have to have to make the business work. So for example, it manages our whistleblowing policy, and it does it in multiple languages, right? So we built that tool, but it's no longer something that we control. It's something that we've basically given to the business. We just initiated it. So I don't have to defend that budget anymore, because I have plenty of other people who go, no, that application really works for us, we're going to keep it. So I think, number one, don't be scared of just giving something a go. Like, the system's not going to cave in, you're not going to get fired, like all that sort of stuff. Just give it a try. And then secondly, don't express it in terms of how it helps you. Express it in terms of how it helps a customer, and the budget will take care of itself. So the simple answer to that is, we need a single source of truth. And the reason why we need a single source of truth is because we have so many ways for people to engage us at speed that it's impossible to keep track of them all. And this goes back to a point I made earlier on. Bodies do not solve this problem, right? You have to put in place a tech solution that enables ingress on a volume level in a way which is then sort of programmable and usable by the legal team. So what you're getting is just this constant stream of stuff, right? And again, let's remind ourselves that the customer expectation here is instant response. And also the customer expectation is of a frictionless response. So we needed to just pull through that noise and also sort of say, okay, you're going to get a better experience if you allow us to put you into a workflow, if you allow us to think about, because we're already thinking in workflow terms, right? Like, so things like Kanban boards, we're already comfortable using those and starting to process individual deliverables on a production line basis, to start to try and use an overall vision of our workflow to be able to delegate. So again, one of the things that's a problem with Slack and Teams and all those kind of things is people in the team get picked off. So I like working with you. I keep on pushing work to you, and I do it because effectively we have a DM relationship on Slack, right? As a general counsel, that's a problem. Not just because not because I have a problem with people creating relationships with the customers. I don't. But what I do have is a problem with people getting effectively priority treatment if that's not the business priority. So we're managing ingress, but we're also looking as a whole piece across what the actual current workflow need is, and that allows us to prioritize it, and it allows us to also give a nice varied diet to the lawyers and the teams. You can't do it unless you have some kind of tool. So, but the absolute core insight of Table, which is something that I guess we should probably expand separately, is the ability to automatically update. And I think that is something that you cannot do with things like Excel or G Sheets, whatever it is that you use, or numbers. You cannot create that auto update, because customers, again, will never go to your platform to look at what everything is going on. They're not interested. They just want their own solution. So again, an ingress tool enables you to provide that solution. And once you are able to create solutions and provide visibility on workflow, then the customers, in my experience anyway, respond very well to that. And certainly to that transparency, it's very helpful. completely, I've got to say, when we first started building this out, this is a great example of an iteration that was customer driven. We thought initially, we'll just give people documents more quickly through tech solutions, and that will make them happy. And it doesn't. And the reason why it doesn't is because of exactly the same reason that, again, Deliveroo or Uber Eats or Just Eat or whatever, when you place your order, right, you order it up from your phone, so completely frictionless. It doesn't just go black, and then at some point, somebody on a bike turns up at your front door, right? It gives you not just where the order, like where the order is once the rider's on the road, right? But it also, it's in the kitchen, right? It's been received. Here's a notification, like push, push, push. At no stage do I have to call the restaurant and go, where's my food? At no stage do I have to go, where's your rider? I know exactly where they are, right? I know exactly who they are, I know exactly when they're turning up, and so on, right? Like all of these things are at my fingertips, right? That is, again, the experience of people in B2C. So let's think about how that now applies in B2B. The usual experience is, so absent a tool like Tabled, I've sent you a Slack message, and I need this, and very often, again, Slack, very, I mean this in the nicest possible way, thoughtless communication. It's very top of mind. You might end up with, I need a document, or here's a link, and we need you to look at this. So I take that, and now the clock is ticking. So far as the customer is concerned, they've initiated the transaction, they've ordered the food, and now they're looking at their phone, they're waiting for it to turn up. You've got to fill that gap of understanding. So their Tabled is doing two things. Number one, it's also saying, do you want cutlery with that? Do you want napkins with that? Do you want a side of bottle of Coke with that? Whatever it may be. The ingress form is doing all of that work for you. So you don't have to keep on going back and going, okay, here's this document, when do you need it by, like so on. That's not on you. So straight away, you just completely eliminated the cost of ingress to the legal team. And this is what we're really talking about here, is protecting time, because that is wasted time that the legal team needs back. So we're going to eliminate the onboarding process for each individual project. That's handy. And this was the piece again that was missed. We first started delivering, thinking the sooner we get the curry to Andy, or whatever it is, the happier Andy's going to be. No, even if it only takes 5 minutes to arrive, the uncertainty as to when it arrives is a cognitive load on Andy. So what Andy's going to do is he's going to, I should probably stop talking about myself in the third person. It's probably not good, gratifying, but he's going to start calling the restaurant. So every call the restaurant receives is a waste of time for the restaurant. Someone's either not serving customers, they're not cooking food, they're not taking new orders. That is the mindset that we missed, but we needed to fulfill. And this is where an automatically updating ingress tool is so important. Because once you take away the costs of ingress, but also the cost of updating, which can be absolute, like in a world where there's zero friction to send a message, just going, what's happening with my doc, question mark, enter, what's happening. In that world, this is not about creating a barrier. This is about getting proactively out ahead of the problem before the customer starts getting upset. And if your customer expects basically instant delivery, that's your number one problem to solve right now as a general counsel, is how do you update your customers and keep them abreast of it in a way that aligns with their expectations. So I talked earlier about this fork, mental well-being, right? Or threat to mental well-being, or solutions that are tech-driven. And I would say ingress is, along with electronic signature, ingress management is your number one way to get more time back out of your current workflow if you're not doing that already, versus, I said, keeping individual books and so on. And then the macro view that I talked about earlier on, the ability to prioritize, the ability to give varied diets, the ability to understand what your current workload is. All those things are almost bolt-ons to the benefit, to those core benefits. But a lot of people may be looking at a tool like Tabled and not seeing those core benefits, which is why I want to emphasize them. It gets you your time back on ingress and update. Again, your clients don't want FaceTime. They don't want FaceTime. I think that's a really critical misunderstanding of the process that we're delivering now. They want solutions. So once you start to take away what is perceived to be the magic of it, like the mystery of documentation, you need to have a law degree and 10 years under your belt to be able to understand how all this sort of stuff fits together. I have to talk to the clients because only I can bring them into this world of mystery, right? I only said a bad word there. It's rubbish, right? Like once you get rid of those things and you go, it's not about FaceTime, it's about solutions. I'm here to manage risk, and deliverables are one element in the management of risk. So what I need to do is actually remove the high volume, low value elements of my risk management piece by democratizing them, and instead move myself up to a higher order of risk management, which is much more strategic, much more long-term, much harder, rather much more rewarding. I'm not going to necessarily always get the, thanks for turning it around so quickly via Slack, right? Because that may not be what the company needs. Like, again, if you're thinking about things in a longer term horizon, it is not about whether that single individual customer is happy. So whether or not your client, not the customer, the client, board of directors of the company representing the company itself, whether or not its needs are being met by the legal team. How you can do that, how you can achieve that wider goal without understanding at a macro level what your workflow is, I don't know. Like, the only way to do that, again, is to think reactively, and that can't be right if your value proposition is long-term strategic management. One of the things that we can, like, we're still thinking about this in terms of how best to represent this, but fundamentally, my number one metric is customer experience. Like, how happy are you with the legal team's output? Do you agree that we offer a world-class service? And ideally, I want a very strong agreement with that. And how we creating that experience for our customers is by, again, providing them with automatic updates, anticipating their needs, but also spending the time that's created by that to try and tailor solutions that work for them. And workflow data can be really helpful in terms of tailoring solutions. Like, why did it sit with this person for the amount of time that it sat with that person for? How come it's taking so long to get a response from the counterparty? Like, overall end-to-end close time, I can see that the item came in here, so this is when we created the record. We archived it here, so that's my end. Why is that so much longer than equivalent deliverables? Let's examine that. And I've done this negotiating, I've written about it before online. Negotiation period analysis. Why does it take so long for this to come together? Because we know that, all the things being equal, the longer it takes to do a document as against like an average time, the worse the quality of the document is. Because what happens is it sits on someone's desk, you've got to reboot everybody up. People look at individual items rather than the document as a whole, because, oh, not this again, that sort of thing. And so what you very commonly get more typos, you very commonly get less thought, like overall holistic thought within the document, because people don't want to go for the experience of having to look at everything all over again. It's just poorer. So those kind of workflow pieces, again, absent a tool like this that offers a journey for every document effectively that's auditable, very difficult to move to that higher order customer insight piece. Like, we've taken insights to our customers and gone, we've noticed this and we think it's a problem, so let's unpack it together. Again, very, very different from the traditional conception of how the lawyer is coming to the customer, right? In fact, most lawyers would expect it to be the other way around. I sit within my office, the customers come to me when they need something, okay, and then, off we go. But we're subverting that. And again, without these kind of tools being in place, I don't really know how do you do it, right? How do you even track it? Like, you maybe spend a day, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've still got one of these, right? I still write some things down, but I could not go back and go, okay, that was the point at which I first got instructions on this, and turn the pages over, and now it's X number of days later. Yeah, it would be a very dumb insight, even if I had time to be able to do it. So I think it's those kind of things that, again, this is going back to the core point. We don't work for the tech enhances us, and that's a great example of something where our ability to serve the client's requirement and the customer need is enhanced by the tech.